Have you ever wondered how the Super Bowl picks the city that it's going to be in, or the Olympics? Keep watching to learn how the city's sports commission attracts these events and how it helps our local economy. My next guest is Jason Siegel, CEO of the Greater Orlando Sports Commission. Tell us a bit about yourself and the Greater Orlando Sports Commission.
Well, I had the great privilege to come to Orlando in 2011. Actually, my college roommate and I were the ones that invested in bringing the Orlando Solar Bears here to Orlando back. Gosh, it's hard to believe it's 11 years ago now. We started in the fall of 2012. About 5 years into it, we had the opportunity to sell the franchise, which we did. And in conversations that I was having with Mayor Dyer, he asked, do you think you'll stay in town? And I said, I know I would. At the time, I had 3 children. I now have 4, and loved the community and wanted to stay here. And there was an opportunity to stay on with the Greater Orlando Sports Commission. So I started in July of 2016. And it's hard to believe for myself, but here we are over 6 years later, and really love the opportunity to serve our community. And at the same time, we've had such a great collaborative experience working with our elected officials and so many wonderful people in tourism in our community to be able to not only continue to grow the impact that we have within the community, but also shine a big spotlight on, we have the great pleasure of representing regionally Orange County, Osceola County, Lake, and Seminole County in the city of Orlando. So very fortunate and really love the job.
For those who don't know, what is the Greater Orlando Sports Commission? Sure,
no, it's a great question. We're often, in fact, we changed our name. We used to be the Central Florida Sports Commission, but we do an awful lot of business internationally. And for our friends in Europe and overseas, they would confuse our region with Jacksonville and Tampa and Lakeland and other communities. So we changed the name to Greater Orlando. We felt like certainly the equity in the name Orlando carried a lot of weight and gave a certain vibe. We work on behalf of the 4 counties in the city of Orlando, as I mentioned, and our role is a little bit fourfold. First and foremost, drive economic impact through the bidding of major marquee sporting events, and those are in 6 different areas. So we're doing business in esports, International Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee, NCAA, amateur. And I think we found over a long period of time, we've had the ability to grow our network and relationships in a lot of those spaces. And we've had the wonderful pleasure of bringing great events to our community for now 30 years. We were established in 1992 with the sole purpose of bringing the World Cup in 1994, which we had the opportunity to do. Was a huge success back in the day. Joni Sherm ran the organization back then. But drive economic impact. The second missions, if you look at our mission statement, is promote our destination. So through sport and through the relationships that we have worldwide, promote sport within our community. The third thing is to sort of be the collaborative force within the ecosystem, within the sports ecosystem, to make sure that all of the stakeholders in our region are communicating with each other, talking to each other, collaborating, doing business with each other, because ultimately I think as long as we're not a community that is siloed and not communicating, I think collectively we're better as one. And then the last area which becomes really interesting is I think a lot of developers who look at capital projects in the community will often come to us for research or advice relative to what kinds of venues might be necessary as we look 5, 10, 15, 20 years out into the distance, and you see the rise of pickleball, or you see the rise of esports, or you see conversations about, do we need more soccer pitches? Do we need more? Because as you know, as our resident base and our tax base continues to grow, can we sustain and can we do a great job for the youth in our community who want to play, youth organized sports? So we're often called on to be a voice of reason or, lend our expertise in those areas so we can help project and predict what may be happening in the future.
And what is the Commission's role in supporting sports and sports tourism in the Central Florida area?
Yeah, it's interesting. During the pandemic, we started looking at the categories and we're looking at the segmentation of industry. And I know that having gotten some of those reports back from the convention center and our partners and friends at Visit Orlando, that sports was playing a huge role in those years, the year and a half, 2 years, when traditional trade show, convention, travel business was down because of the effects of the pandemic. You saw ESPN's Wide World of Sports host not only the MLS return to their season, but also the restart and start of the NBA season. We were very successful in hosting outdoor sports with an open economy, and certainly with our the venues. We work with over 35 venues in the market. We were able to host golf events and tennis events, a lot of those outdoors, obviously within safe protocols, and it was a challenge. It was definitely a unique set of challenges. In fact, to that, a lot of the venues asked us to host sort of these best practices, stakeholder meetings within the region for all the venues so that everybody could share best practices. So I think, our role has ebbed and flowed and changed over time. But certainly as it relates to tourism, there are certain times of year where we can be very impactful. The NCAA is a perfect example. There are 3 main times of year where they're having national championships that are able to be hosted, either national championships or conference championships. And we've had the great fortune, the bid cycle for the NCAA is every 4 years, they award 500 national championships across the country. This past year, over 3,300 bids were submitted for those 500, and Orlando, no other city will host more national championships in their city than Orlando. We won 17 of those events, and very proud of that, and certainly excited because next March we're going to be hosting March Madness. In May, we're going to be hosting Division I, II, and III tennis championships at the USTA. Following year, we have a big festival that's coming. A number of Showalter Field and a number of our communities will be involved in hosting that NCAA festival. So we take the responsibility to heart. It's a lot of opportunity, but it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of competition. Cities are not sitting back. Maybe to illustrate that, about 10 years ago, Commissioner, there were 100 sports commissions in the United States. Now there's 650. So I think what's happened is counties across the United States have figured out that if you can leverage a bed tax or leverage some sort of flow of revenue into the community to either convert a cornfield or an open lot into a venue or a stadium or a place to play basketball tournaments, those communities can drive an impact by bidding on these opportunities. And we're doing it 30 years. We think we're good at it, and we certainly know that the competition is fierce. But at the same time, we have so many incredible assets here in Orlando, as you know. Weather and venues and an incredible hotel community, a robust restaurant and tourism, but also having great healthcare and partners, having great partners. Our elected officials are wonderful and accessible and responsive. So it makes our ability to navigate and ebb and flow and pivot really easy.
For those who don't understand how the bidding process works, and for those who have heard of the bidding process and have complained about our tax dollars being spent on bidding, putting out bids, can you explain that process and what it means?
I can. So what has happened over time is that event organizers know that they have a commodity. They know that they have a product that is going to drive a certain amount of visitation, a certain amount of hotel stays, bed nights. And what they've done subsequently over time is required either a bid fee or some sort of a guarantee. So when you're negotiating to bring, no different than bringing a concert or an entertainment opportunity into the community, in sports, same thing. There's a relationship that our organization, certainly with Orange County, when we're hosting events here in Orange County, City of Orlando, where we're required, in order to bid on opportunities, to provide either a fee or an incentive for the opportunity to host those events. Our job is to vet great opportunities, and when we talk about great opportunities, for us, it's return on investment. We have to look and see, what are we going to spend for the opportunity to drive a certain amount of impact, meaning filling hotel rooms, filling restaurants, filling a venue, so that we can bring, for the residents of our community, these wonderful, exciting events: March Madness, WrestleMania, Monster Jam World Finals, Pro Bowls, and so many other exciting events that our residents are going to be excited to attend. But it's our job to make sure that ultimately, for the dollars we spend, we get a return on that investment for our community, that we're driving a reimbursement of those bed taxes. So we'll use an incentive that's from our tourist development tax. But at the same time, the good news is, in most cases, we're filling the bucket back up, because the event itself will drive that much more visitation, and it turns out to be incremental volume for our community. So it's can be an intense process. It can be a very competitive process. I think that we have to make sure that we're being good stewards of those dollars, so that ultimately we're making good business decisions along with our partners in the community, and ultimately, get the kind of results that we're hoping for in most cases.
Are there any ways that the community can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on the events themselves and depending on how much notice we have, sometimes there are opportunities where we'll bid on events that are 5 to 10 years in the distance. Right now, we're bidding on the Rugby World Cup for men and women in 2031 and 2033. With a certain amount of advance notice, we have local organizing committees. For some of our local organizing committees, we've had upwards of 400 or 500 community members be part of that in all segments, all industries. Our needs are vast. It's not just selling tickets and filling hotel rooms. When we bid on a lot of these opportunities, it's about the experience that our guests are going to have when they come to Orlando. So we have opportunities to be on host committees and welcoming committees, but volunteering in one shape or form, whether it's we have so many wonderful seniors that have helped us with our golf tournament, so we get great volunteers there. But across the board, there are so many different ways to get involved. Local organizing committees. We have a very large board of directors. We're at 89 board members for our organization. So we rely on the influence and the human capital and experience of so many great executives in the community to be part of what we do as an organization. But lots of ways to get involved. All of that's on our website, greaterorlandosports.com. And we're excited. I think it's, you see as our community continues to grow, more and more interest in getting involved and in getting active. We're really thrilled. We get to host not only our industry awards, but we also do a Celebrating Women in Sports award show as well, where we get to celebrate the women in our community who are these, in some cases, groundbreaking, glass-shattering executives who helped pave the way for so many women who are in the industry where 20, 30 years ago there were very few. So we're finding more and more ways to integrate ourselves and bring value, but absolutely, lots of volunteer opportunities.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I think if I were to close, I would say, that we're really fortunate as a community to have great leadership. It's really, in my mind, we've seen over time, now 30 years as an organization, that regardless of, the individuals who are in certain places, the spirit in our community is alive and well. And I think that's created incredible opportunity and access and dividends. And we're very fortunate to have that collaboration across multiple industries. And I want to thank you for being a big part of that. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, leadership will set the tone. Leadership will ultimately make decisions that help us navigate through the economic aspects of what we're trying to accomplish, and really applaud you and your partners and the rest of the commission, because without that support, we may not have as much access to bring these wonderful events in our community. And I know that the residents appreciate that, and ultimately at the same time, I know that it's part of a vibrant community to have, big events, and especially in sports, you see what that does for a community. Knock on wood, Orlando City's had 3 great years making the playoffs. If the Magic have a great run this year, what that will do to energize and bring our community together. UCF, so many great examples of all these wonderful events that we have here. So thank you for all you do, and look forward to a lot more great announcements in the near future.
How can individuals get in touch?
Website's the easiest way. We have a spot on our website to get involved, to volunteer, submit your information, and a lot of the information about what we do and what we have coming up is posted there as well. We have a newsletter that goes out every Thursday. We started that a little bit before the pandemic started to get information about resources in the community, but also update everybody on what's happening in the sports community. So lots of ways to get involved and keep up with what we're doing.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
You bet.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.